Just hang on. Go.
Oh. Welcome back to Dynasty 365, the Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast that here at Fantasy and Frames. Tonight we're discussing all the recent NFL free agency moves and transactions and what they could mean from a Dynasty Fantasy Football perspective. Plus, later in the show, we'll be previewing our upcoming 2026 Dynasty Startup Mock Draft episode next week, discussing some early strategy points and how free agency might reshape the startup boards. Jorge, let's get it started. So, since we talked last week, there have been a handful of more free agency moves that we would like to discuss. None other than QB Kyler Murray going to the Minnesota Vikings. He's still owed that big $36 million from the Arizona Cardinals. So he goes to the Vikings on a vet minimum 1 year, $1.3 million contract. Jorge, I want to ask you, what does this contract say, or maybe in this case, in your mind, not say about Murray's current NFL market value?
So for me, what this tells me is they are not in on JJ McCarthy, but they may not be out on JJ McCarthy. You know, if they were so confident that Kyler Murray was the long-term answer, I think a 1 year prove-it deal would be something that they would kind of not do, and they would more focus on giving a longer extension. However, I get the notion, like, he has shown to be successful in the past, but you've seen the decline over the years, whether it's injuries cutting seasons short or just the fantasy production not being there. That's a concern. Now, of course, with fantasy, we talk about cheat codes, right? We like the scrambling quarterbacks. And so when he is on, the field for a full season or close to a full season, he has like a minimum of 55 rushing attempts. So you love to see that for a fantasy quarterback. But, this 1 year deal, it screams training camp competition, which, again, we saw how badly JJ McCarthy played last year. But the fact that they're potentially leaning towards that competition tells me they're not exactly out on him either.
So that kind of bleeds into our next question. Then, you do think this is like a legitimate competition still?
Oh yeah, I don't think this is going to be a let's hand over the keys to Kyler Murray. If a coaching staff was so confident in Kyler Murray being their quarterback, he would never have left Arizona, or they would have never released him. Rather,
that's a great point. Jorge, I want to stick with you to finish up with Kyler Murray, because obviously, this is a Dynasty show, and we got to talk about Dynasty rumbling in some perspective just past beyond next season of 2026. How would you say this affects the Vikings' QB room for the long term going forward?
So let's start with Kyler Murray. And JT, I kind of want to rope you into this as well, because you and I, we've talked about this ad nauseum, and that is, it is very hard to want to just get rid of quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Especially when you're doing a super flex dynasty league, because you never know when somebody's lucky number is called for a season, a la in our Fantasy and Frames dynasty league. Sam Darnold was on waivers, and I am hurting at quarterback very badly. Coincidentally, Kyler Murray is my other one. I picked up Sam Darnold, and that worked out okay for me. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you never want to just discard the quarterback position. As far as like a short-term value, I think he is better suited for a redraft year than a 2 to 3 year commitment. But I'm not going to be getting rid of him if that is my only option or my second best option, because one, you need at least 3 quarterbacks for Superflex, and you never know. You never know what the situation could be. Outside of JJ McCarthy, we see what Kevin O'Connell has done at the quarterback position, a la Sam Darnold, while he was there in Minnesota. So if there's anybody who can rehabilitate his game, it's Kevin O'Connell.
Jorge, I agree with you there. Right? If you wanted to get Kyler Murray into a better situation, this is it, because this is going to be the best offensive quarterback coach he's ever played with. If anybody can fix him, I think it's Kevin O'Connell. He's tough to invest a lot in, going out and say, oh, do you want to go trade for Kyler Murray in Dynasty? Yeah. I don't know if I want to give up a lot. Now, here's where I would be making moves for him if I'm a JJ McCarthy owner. I want to have both those guys. If I can get a reasonable deal, maybe a player and a pick swap combined to get Murray, so I have Murray and McCarthy, I'd feel a lot better about it. But just going out and grabbing Kyler Murray and going, I can definitely plug him in every weekend to my lineup, I'm not 100% sure about that. I do think this is going to be a competition. I think these guys, I think they like JJ McCarthy. I just think they realize, like, after the injury, how young he is. I think they're just like, hey, we need to be a little better prepared coming into this season, that if JJ McCarthy goes down again, like, we have somebody there. And I think, just having someone to push him, I think is going to be good. So I have to tell you, I think I'm really 50-50 on at this very moment on who wins this job. I do think it's a complete competition. I think they are going to play and see who wins it. Obviously, like you said, Jorge, with the money they're committing to him, it's not a lot. It's not like, oh, well, we bought this guy, we're paying him $60 million, we got to play him. They're not. So I really do think this is a toss-up situation. I could see myself getting some Kyler Murray in Dynasty if some people are just totally ready to move on, but I'm not going to go out there and aggressively try to buy him at this point.
No, I agree. I think I agree with Jorge's point that I think this is more of a redraft talking point than really any dynasty stability, if we're being honest. Moving over to running backs, we want to start with a move that I think could be proved to be overlooked and great in the long run. Chris Rodriguez going to the Jacksonville Jaguars on a 2-year, $10 million deal, 5 per over those 2 years specifically. JT, I want to swing it over to you quick. This is significant money Jacksonville is investing into this player. Does Rodriguez project as a true early down complement to Tootin, would you say? Or is he just a rotational / depth piece more so at the end of the day?
I think this Jacksonville team, this backfield is just, I don't know what to do with it. I really don't, because we've got a bunch of young guys, none of them proven. Chris Rodriguez has the most, legit carries in his career, but it's not like he's super explosive or anything. I tell you what, and this is just going to be my personal bias coming through. I still like LaQuinn Allen. I really think LaQuinn Allen's good. I think he's going to be good. I think they drafted him late to be the receiving back. I think without Etienne there, I'm not in love with Rayshall Tootin. I think he's a big play guy. He's got some moments. He fumbles the football, though. He's not great out of the backfield catching the ball. Rodriguez is more of a plotter. I think he's an early down guy. I'm not going out there and trying to get him like crazy. If I could get him cheap, because, again, we haven't seen the draft yet, so we don't know if they'll draft anyone. I'd be really surprised if they did after they got Tootin and Allen last year. But I tell you what, I'm feeling really good about my LaQuinn Allen shares, which I have a ton of. I do not have a lot of Tootin. I don't think there's a ton of people that love Tootin, because I don't know what you guys are getting in your draft or your dynasty leagues. I'm getting all kinds of Tootin offers. People are trying to sell him to me, and I'm not even a Tootin fan. So that always makes me hesitate a little bit when I see a bunch of other people trying to sell me players I don't like a lot. So I think people are really nervous about what this backfield is going to be, and if there's really any lead back, or whether this ends up being completely situational. I don't love Rodriguez. He's worth a shot, especially if he's out there for cheap, if he's on waiver wire, say somebody dropped him last year. But, man, I don't think this means he automatically gets touches for this team. I think all it does is muddy the waters for Tootin more. I think Allen ends up being the third down back. I think Tootin ends up being a guy that gets early play, trying to get some big plays. If he struggles, I think Rodriguez becomes kind of their hammer when they need a couple yards here and there and maybe on the goal line. So I'm nervous if I have any of these players right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I want to ask you straight up, though, JT, moving aside LaQuinn Allen, pushing aside Rayshall Tootin as well, rather, straight up, could Chris Rodriguez in deep league formats, deep bench spots, what have you, be a really good roster depth piece at the RB position?
I think so. I think if you're in a league where you're definitely hurting for some RB starts, like an RB2 or a flex play, I think he's decent because we've seen it in the past. Tootin is obviously the most explosive player in this backfield, but he's had fumble issues in the past. He's had injury issues in the past. If Jacksonville is winning games early and he fumbles, I could see where he starts losing favor. They bring in Rodriguez going, he's a vet. He's not exciting, but like he's solid. I can absolutely see him being the goal line back for this team and the short yardage guy. So when they need big plays, or not big plays, but they need yards, third and short, fourth and short. So I definitely think he's a guy that's worth going out there and getting, especially in deep leagues. If you're hurting at running back, he's worth a shot compared to some other guys that are really, really long shots. I think Rodriguez is one of those guys he's going to see some playing time. Consistently, I don't know, but I definitely think he's going to be in the mix in Jacksonville.
Going to add a little bit to that, when you look at what he can do with the ball after his hands and yards he can accumulate, specifically after contact. Rodriguez ranks 8th per PFF with yards after contact per attempt. So when he's running the ball, he may not be the most elusive guy, but he's definitely one that's hard to bring down. You have to go down to RB15 for Vishal Tootin. The question here is, though, you have to ask yourself, read the tea leaves, as it were, and that is, if they were so confident in Tootin's ability to carry the load with HN now in New Orleans. I'm sorry, that's his name, right?
It's so weird to me.
His brother didn't say
Jorge. I caught myself when I said ETN because I was like, I know he said HA the other day. I'm very confused about these guys.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to start an official Twitter poll. What are we calling? Everyone across the board has to call them the same thing. So I want to see what happens when the NFL starts calling. I need the NFL show to come on and be like, hey, this is
change your name at the combine when you're drafted. And then
exactly.
The thing that gets me is like, how many years have you been in the league and this is just coming up now? Like, I don't understand why. Whatever. I mean, to each
new
their
team,
own.
new name.
Right. That's good. I like that. No, but seriously,
hey, if anybody should learn, remember Shaq Leonard. He changed his name and everything went all downhill as soon as he changed his name. He went to Darius and it got ugly. He's like, hey, just stay with the nickname. Stay with whatever got you there when you were killing it. Let's just do that, people. All right, Jorge, I'm sorry. No more cutting you off. You jump back in.
I think I cut myself off with just the name change. But if they were so confident that Tootin and Quentin Allen were going to be, the solution here, why go out and get a Chris Rodriguez unless one or two things? You're wanting to create a backfield competition this year. You may just added some extra depth, but you're going to address the running back position. Although we all, as we've been talking about on Dynasty 365, like this is a wide receiver heavy class. Running back kind of falls off kind of quickly after a certain point. So I'm thinking this is more a backfield competition situation in training camp that we should be paying attention to. But I actually like Rodriguez. He was pretty explosive when given the opportunities in Washington. And like I said, he's really hard to bring down and can generate a lot of yards after contact. So, especially after yards after contact per rushing attempt. So if I had to pick one, I think I'm leaning Rodriguez in this backfield.
I think I agree. I like Rodriguez. The efficiency was pretty damn good last year, so that's what I go back to. Moving over to LA, moving over to Los Angeles, Keaton Mitchell signs a 2-year, $9.25 million deal with the Chargers. This is quite the interesting move, to me at least, because new OC Mike McDaniel and head coach Jim Harbaugh go out and add a true speed element to this backfield. So, Jorge, talking about how interesting this move is, could Mitchell carve out a nice change of pace or explosive play role here, you think?
No. Sorry, I'm not buying it. Like, you have Kamani Vidal, you have Omarion Hampton. This, and I love roaming the Twitter streets, as it were, of like, oh man, McDaniel can make this guy a superstar. This, Keaton Allen, he's a Harbaugh guy. He played for his brother, so of course the other brother's going to want to use him. And I'm just like, this is so stupid. Like, oh my God, he's a part of this, McDaniel offense. Like, so is Jalen Wright. What did we get out of Jalen Wright? You know what I mean? Ollie Gordon is going to be featured in this backfield behind Devin Achane. Okay, he had like a couple good plays here and there, maybe a good game, but in reality, like this offense is predicated on using one primary running back, and that is definitely going to be Omarion Hampton. And if for some reason they decided to, make it like a 80-20 or 70-30 split per game, which you couldn't even predict from week to week, it'd be Vidal, not Keaton Mitchell.
Well, to your point, talking about Mike McDaniel and the elite offensive play calling infrastructure that he brings over, I think people aren't talking about enough. I'm excited to see how much Omarion Hampton's receiving usage goes up in that high-flying McDaniel offense.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, we saw what he was able to do, meaning McDaniel with Devon Achane. We're definitely going to see that upside. But at the same time, I guess this is very hard to say because I'm not trying to say like temper expectations on Omarion Hampton because that'd be ludicrous. But let's remember he didn't play a full season. We didn't get to see him fully unleashed last year. I wouldn't write off Kamani Vidal just yet as far as being involved in that passing game, but I do agree that the opportunity should be there given Hampton's health now is not in question. So, like I said, I'm very hesitant to go right off Vidal. To your point about Keaton Mitchell, I could care less about Keaton Mitchell right now. Like, he is more of like a, he is like that waiver wire person in a redraft league where you're just like, oh, there is an injury. I'm going to go pick him up because I predict in a couple weeks he's going to be beneficial for me if it's a long-term injury. For Dynasty, like I said, if you are not the Hampton manager, but the Vidal manager, and you worry that they won't re-sign him when his contract is up, which I believe is either next year or the year after, then that's a situation where I would go get Keaton Mitchell, potentially, assuming Keaton Mitchell's contract. Let me pull up his contract right now. I just want to make sure it's not just a couple-year contract. Keaton Mitchell.
2 years, yeah.
2 years. See, even more of a reason why not to put a lot of faith into Keaton Mitchell in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The only thing I want him in Dynasty is Dynasty Best Ball. If I'm in Dynasty Best Ball leagues, that's where I want Keaton Mitchell because I think he's gonna break some big plays. I think he's gonna do some stuff that's gonna help you, but it's good. Which games are those gonna happen in? In a lineup setting league, I don't want to take the chance that he gets me a 0 or like a 15 one week. In Best Ball, you're in Dynasty Best Ball, which I'm not in a ton of Dynasty Best Ball leagues, but I've added some more. He's a guy I like in that because of the big playability, because of the speed. He's a guy you don't have to worry about putting in your lineup, but if he does break a big one, boom, he counts for you that week. So he's a guy I like for Dynasty Best Ball. I think they will use him in LA. I think the Chargers are going to like him just for his explosive ability, but I think he's going to be the same guy for the Chargers that he was for the Ravens. He's a change of pace guy, occasionally gets a big play here and there. I do agree 100% with Jorge. If something happens to Omarion Hampton, I think it becomes Vidal again. I don't think Keaton Mitchell's I don't think his role with the team is going to change. I think he's going to play the same role no matter who ends up being the starter, and I just don't think it's ever going to be Keaton Mitchell as the starter. It's going to be Hampton and be Vidal.
You know what this reminds me of? I think people are kind of anticipating J.K. Dobbins went from the Ravens to the Chargers, and we saw him have success. The same thing is going to apply to Keaton Mitchell. And I'm like, those are two completely
different players, right? Yeah, you're right, Jorge. Totally different players, totally different situation. Like I said, Mitchell, I don't mind it in deep leagues as a depth piece. I don't mind him at all. But really, for dynasty purposes, Best Ball is where I want him. That's about it, probably. Though I do think Omarion Hampton is going to, I know we're a dynasty show and not a redraft show. I think he's going to be a redraft steal this year for people. I think with the O-line problems, with the injury and everything, I think he's going to fall just a little farther than he should. Because I think if this O-line gets healthy and gets back to form, they were terrible last year. It's not going to take much for them to be a little bit better. I think he could have a big year.
Yeah, continuing on with another quick hitter at the RB position here quickly, we have Emmanuel Wilson signing with the Seattle Seahawks on a cheap 1-year, $2.1 million deal. At first glance, you might think depth signing / rotational piece, but you look up and this is the RB1, crazy to say, but the RB1 for the Seattle Seahawks right now. So, Jorge, because of that, they got to sign one of these guys that can handle a workload in the next 2 months, like Brian Robinson Jr. and Najee Harris, right?
Oh, you picked.
I
Like,
mean,
the
they
two,
can't be rolling with Emmanuel Wilson as RB1, can they?
can they? I mean, the answer here is them getting a stopgap until Charbonnet is ready to come back from the ACL tear. That's
Correct.
what all this is, right? They invested the draft capital in Charbonnet, that he is going to be the guy until further notice. So the question is, to your point, who's going to be the one to carry the load here? I actually think if they do have to go after another free agent running back, it's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. The Najee Harris train, I think that is far removed. I think we are far removed from him being a viable option here. But Brian Robinson, he didn't get a lot of work last year since being traded or since being released and then sent to signing with the 49ers, excuse me. As we saw Christian McCaffrey's usage still predominate there. So I think Brian Robinson could be that answer from a dynasty perspective, as well as a real football perspective for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he is somebody that I would want to hedge my bets on, given the fact that he is still a unrestricted free agent, and try to acquire, hoping he lands in the right landing spot.
Yeah. So,
all right, I got into one of these taco and a Discord the other day. We were like, if Pete Carroll was still the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, would Jadarian Price be the pick by Seattle at the end of the first round? Making jokes. I was like, he probably would be. But I do think they're going to eye a running back in this draft. I think they're going to eye somebody later. I tell you what, I was a big fan of when they took Damian Martinez last year. I thought they were going to let Walker go. Damian Martinez was going to kind of be the second, third back for the year and kind of work his way up. Then he got signed away by the Packers off the practice squad. That disappointed me because I thought he was going to have a shot. I tell you what, George Halani, the ex-Boise State running back, if he's out there in a deep league, he's a guy I'm picking up. I absolutely think they like him, especially when they let Martinez go to practice squad and get signed away. I think they like him. I think he is – I'm not the biggest Sharps guy. I know people like him. He gets the goal line touches. I think Halani actually over Emmanuel Wilson has a shot to actually get some run here, especially with Sharps out with the injury. He's a guy I've got my eye on. Deeper leagues, George Halani, ex-Boise State running back. Keep your eyes open for him. And real quick, before we move on, we got a question here. The commish says, what do you think about Keon Coleman, end of the bench stash? He's still available in a startup, couple rounds left. I like Keon Coleman in a best ball because, again, he's still going to grow. You're still going to have a shot at him. You don't have to start him every week because, again, you're never going to pull the trigger with him in a regular league. But I like him in the fact that there's a chance. They haven't used him correctly. They still have yet to use him correctly. He should be a guy running crossing routes over the field. He should not be running deep downfield. I don't know why they're using him the way they am. I still like it deep in a startup. Aiden, you're a Bills guy. Before you go there, what do you think?
You said a couple things. So I agree in a dynasty best ball, those are cool. But like in a regular dynasty, are you still okay with wanting him on your roster? Because I don't. I want to.
Yeah, that's my thing. If you have to start him, you have to physically put him in your lineup. I'm real nervous. But in a best ball, I think, especially if you're going deep in your draft in a startup, I think it's worth, because again, if you're picking him late, say season gets going and he just does nothing, it's not going to kill you to drop him and go pick somebody else up, right? So to me, if you're getting him late in a startup, to me, it's totally worth it in best ball, not in lineup though.
All right, Aiden, give us your expert opinion here, taking bias, being a Bills fan out of the equation.
So, number one, I didn't really like – okay, well, I liked Keon Coleman, but I wasn't nearly as high on him coming out of Florida State because it was a very, very underwhelming route runner, and everyone billed him as this great contested catch guy. But then you look at the contested catch numbers from college so far through 2 years in the NFL, and he's poor in contested catch situations. So everyone thinks he's good in those situations, when in reality, he's really not. I'm going to say something, and this is like a death nail for Keon Coleman. Number one, I couldn't be more out. But number two, this is the death nail I was talking about. If your best attribute that people are talking about as a very first pick, the second round wide receiver 2 years ago, is, get ready for it, blocking, then you're not gonna
Wow.
ever be a producer. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Hey, you know what? Explain it to the rest of your Bills Mafia friends that.
They all agree. No one likes Keanu around here. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And real quick before and then the commission comes on and says, "Hey, Martinez, low key, great stash." I actually agree. I know he's not a free agent signing, but with Wilson leaving Green Bay, Martinez is going to get a shot to possibly be the number one running back behind the backup. I should say, not the number one, the backup behind Josh Jacobs. Damian Martinez, if he's out there, I've got him on a ton of taxi squads. I mean, a ton. But if he's out there, he's another guy you might want to think about going out and grabbing. There's a world where he moves up and actually gets some significant backup role for the Packers. Just want to throw that out there while we were talking about it.
Yeah, why not? Moving over to the Washington Commanders, former Buccaneers running back Rachaad White has signed a 1-year, $2 million deal with the franchise Commanders here. So at face value, this seems like a very cheap, prove-it type situation. Jorge, you know I had to get you in on this first and foremost. Does this landing spot provide a clear path in terms of touches and perceived workload for Rachaad White? Or is it going to be some White, some JCM, some Jerome Ford, a mix of all three?
I don't see why there is a scenario where Rachaad White all of a sudden becomes a trusted 3-down back. I think you bring him in, and you utilize him for what he was good at in Tampa Bay, which was a receiving back. Again, a 1-year deal, you're not investing the farm here to make him a long-term asset. I think we saw JCM have more success when given adequate volume rushing the ball than we had seen over the past few seasons with Rachaad White. Jerome Ford, to me, that screams depth piece. I'm not really excited about Jerome Ford, to be honest with you, from a dynasty perspective. I probably would be if I was the JC. No, I take that back. I would not be excited to have Jerome Ford. There's nothing exciting about Jerome Ford. That being the case, we did see inconsistent usage from JCM. We didn't, the offense as a whole was just all sorts of screwy last year for the Washington Commanders. Hence, they got rid of Cliff Kingsbury and brought in David Blau to be the offensive coordinator. So I still believe they have faith in JCM, or else they wouldn't, or else they would have given Rachaad White a bigger deal. So I anticipate him being great for PPR. Half PPR, and obviously non-PPR, you're not even going down that road if anybody still plays non-PPR, which it hurts me that people don't play non-PPR anymore because I am an old head when it comes to that. But yeah, I think it's still the JCM show with Rachaad White sprinkled in there, unless God please, Kyle Ziegler, I hope you're watching this. I hope
I know where this is going.
I hope your Titans are effing stupid at number 2 and don't take don't take Love and let Jeremiah Love and let him fall to the Washington Commanders, because then in that case now we're saying goodbye JCM, still having Rachaad White. Yeah, exactly. So things could change. Obviously, we're a month away from the draft. So,
Jorge, as the meme goes, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink a Dos Equis. That's how I feel about Rachaad White with me and you. I don't always agree with Jorge, but when I do, it's always about Rachaad White. Rachaad White is
full circle.
Trash. He's bad. He got a 1-year deal. I think me and Jorge have been trying to tell people for 3 years that he's not good and that he had that one miracle season because of 1,000 touches for no yards at all. There is no way the Commanders are coming into this season with White as their only guy, as the lead guy. I just don't see it. I was just going to say it, Jorge, before you brought it up. I haven't seen a lot of mocks of it, but if Jeremiah Love gets to Washington at 7,
they're not.
I really do think realistically, I saw a lot of people have him go to the Saints. Well, they've already signed a guy. I had a lot of people saw him going to KC. Well, they already signed a guy. Bengals, nope, they already got Brown. Miami, they got A-Chain. Cowboys at 12, possibly. And you get going on there. But I think the Commanders at 7 legitimately is a spot where I could see Love going. I absolutely could see him going there.
And here's the thing, in tying this to Dynasty, and from all the reports that we got from the first couple of days of NFL free agency, the Commanders were like right there. Like they were throwing $30 million a year to Alec Pierce. Like they were throwing like a 1 year or 2 year, $12 million deal to Kenneth Walker. Like they were per year, that is, so $24 million, excuse me. They were swinging and nobody was biting. So, and then you saw what happened after that. As the week went on, it became a lot of defense heavy signings for the Commanders. So I think in that 4-day time span, as we kicked off NFL free agency, you have to believe like that their draft philosophy went from like, okay, we need to address defense to like, well, I guess we addressed defense in free agency as best as we could. Let's get Jaden Daniels some weapons, because I really believe Dan Quinn being the offensive coach, the head coach with a defensive background, they really wanted to address the depth at defense in this 2026 NFL draft. But because of striking out in free agency on offense and kind of being more defensive oriented in terms of signing players, the Commanders now they need to surround Jaden Daniels with these wide receiving options. Or if Jeremiah Love lands there at 7, like he's the Washington Commander in 2026.
I also think if for some reason they go defense at 7, I really would look at their 3rd round pick. Now, I don't love this RB group. I've said it a lot of times, but I think we're going to see some guys drop that are going to get good value for the draft. I could see Washington going RB in the 3rd. If Jonah Coleman gets there, I think that would be a prime spot to see Jonah Coleman go. I'm not the biggest Emin Johnson guy from Nebraska, but I could see them liking him, maybe giving him a shot there in the 3rd. Jadarian Price, who I just brought up from Notre Dame. If they miss out on Love from Notre Dame, maybe they go Price from Notre Dame, maybe in that third round there. I was trying to see, I know they've got a pretty early 5th round pick as well, and we saw a lot of running backs drop to the 5th last year. I was trying to look through the 4th. I don't think they have a 4th round.
They're limited in capital.
So it'd be interesting to see, if they do really like a running back, I could see them grabbing a guy if like the number 2 or number 3 running back on their board doesn't come off by the 3rd round. I could see them grabbing a guy in the 3rd, if not, possibly wait until the 5th. I think they do something. They're going to have, I think they like the guys they have. Okay. You need a good running game for your quarterback, your young quarterback. You got to have a good running game. You can't just rely on him and get him killed. I think you got to get some running backs in there. I think Love is the pick. If he goes before them, or they decide now we're going defense, I would really look for that 3rd round and a guy like an Emmett Johnson, a Coleman, a Price. Right. I think that would be really nice value.
We got Brandon in the chat saying mock drafts have turned into chaos this week. And it's funny because, JT, I know you're in a bazillion mock drafts, and we see mock draft links being posted everywhere by colleagues and other members of the fantasy community. Aiden, to this point that mock drafts have been turning into chaos, especially this week, do you think overanalysis, overthinking has just swept through the Dynasty community, where it's like, now we're just looking for takes to be spicy, we're trying to be contrarian, when in reality nobody wants to admit it, but it's like we're saying the same stuff over and over again until like the NFL draft, and we have to find some way to create content, and therefore we're going to say Jeremiah Love, my RB6, and it's going to be like, what is going on? What just happened? And it's like, come on, let's be real.
Yeah, like we talked about this 2 months ago, and to your not us specifically, but in terms of like people say the same things over and over that they talked about 2 months ago. To your point, though, everyone wants to find things to talk about this time of year, new situations, free agency. We're getting rookie fatigue. We try to nitpick certain prospects. It's right. All over the place. So I absolutely agree with you. That is absolutely going on for sure.
Nice.
Continuing along with the talk of the town, it seems this time of year with wide receivers, the Seattle Seahawks have brought back Rashid Shaheed on a new 3-year, $51 million contract, $17 per million over the next 3 years. Guys, this is a substantial and significant commitment and investment to a player that brings legit speed and downfield juice to your offense. But now with this new contract, JT, for fantasy purposes, does Shaheed now project as a weekly flex option for many years to come in dynasty formats? Or are you pumping the brakes a little?
I think it's going to come down to what Seattle does in the draft. Do they go out there and try to get some wide receivers to add this group, or they go somewhere else? Because if they don't add to this wide receiver group, you got to feel pretty good about Shaheed, right? Because for all the love I have for Cooper Kupp, we've seen the decline quickly. He's just a guy now. He's not that guy that was winning Triple Crown. JSN's obviously the guy there. He's an absolute freaking stud. Up there for one of the top dynasty wide receiver, top 5 guys. Absolutely. They made the trade for Shaheed, so re-signing him, I was a little surprised because, for the money they gave him, they could have just re-signed Kenny Walker. So I'm like, I'd rather have Kenny Walker personally, but that shows you how much they like Shaheed. They're like, hey, we'll give up Kenny Walker and keep Rashid Shaheed. So as a deep threat guy, as a guy who can make big plays, I like him. For Dynasty, the one thing that this worries me a little bit about is Torrey Horton. I like Torrey Horton a ton.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, Torrey Horton's going to step in here. He's going to be the number 2 with JSN. I was like, buy me some more Torrey Horton. And now I'm like, ooh, where does this work for Torrey Horton? He now becomes wide receiver 4 for them. Any injury, I think he gets in there. Also, though, I just think Cooper Kupp, while savvy veteran, I just think the days of him being an elite fantasy prospect, we know that that's gone. He's not going to be an elite fantasy producer anymore, is what I meant to say, not prospect. But I do like Torrey Horton. So I do think Torrey Horton still, Shaheed, is he going to be a guy you can just you literally rip out there and throw 10 targets to a week? I don't know. That's never been him. He's a deep threat guy. You run reverses to him. You try to get big plays to him. Or are you just throwing the ball constantly? I don't know. So to me, if they don't draft any wide receivers in the draft or sign anyone else in free agency, I feel like get on the Torrey Horton train right now because I think he is going to be really good for them. But I do think Shaheed, depending on how they use him, he's definitely a weekly flex play. We'll see if he can get into that wide receiver 3 area for your starting lineups for fantasy.
Yeah. All right, everybody. The moment we've all been waiting for, finishing off with tight ends. Here we go. Look at that. We have 2 Washington Commanders segments on the show tonight. This is really something. Jorge, I guess you were in mind when we were discussing all this. But
crazy, right?
Yeah. What a coincidence. Chig Okonkwo has signed a 3-year, $30 million contract with the Washington Commanders. This number, to me at least, to everybody, jumps off the page at tight end, but I think it's clear that the Commanders are paying Chig for what he can be, not what he has been. Obviously, we know he's basically a big slot receiver, but the upside has always been there. Now he's detached from Gutter Helm. So I want to ask you, going forward, 3-year, that's good for Dynasty. Is this finally the breakout opportunity in terms of snaps, in terms of production, in terms of whatever you want to look at that we've been waiting for Chig Okonkwo, Jorge?
I look at where he's stepping into, and let's go to Zach Ertz last year in terms of the first read percentage, meaning how often the quarterback was locking onto him as his first receiving option. Zach Ertz was the tight end 7. So you already know that Jaden Daniels loves throwing to those tight ends. You look at the contested catch percentage. Chig Okonkwo is pretty decent. You look at the fact of his missed tackles forced per reception. That is also very high. So he is definitely, when an athletic quarterback, his yards after contact per reception high. His yards per route run is a little suspect. A little bit lower than I would want. I don't think you're going to be getting somebody who's a dynamic tight end who's just going to be creating separation and being an asset in that way as a receiver. I think they're going to scheme up ways to get him the ball in open space. And once he gets that ball, he can definitely turn it upfield with the best of them. So it's one of the situations where we've seen glimpses of what his upside can be, but we also know how much Jaden Daniels loves starting in the tight end position. And, we look currently as things stand pre-NFL draft, you have Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver one, like, no disrespect to Van Jefferson,
God forbid.
or wherever
You can disrespect Van Jefferson. That's fine.
He went to the Commanders, by the way.
He did go to. So this is why I bring him up. No disrespect to Van Jefferson, but as it stands right now, it's McLaurin and it's Chig.
Yeah.
As far as the receiving options right now, like Treylon Burks, I'll believe that hype. Like everyone wants to talk about, oh, that was such a great touchdown catch. What else did he do?
The one catch.
Luke McCaffrey, not buying it. They brought back De'Ami Brown, who everybody is going to be like, oh, it's De'Ami Brown. Yeah, we have De'Ami Brown. Like De'Ami Brown was good for maybe 4 games in 3 seasons with the Commanders. Those 4 games coming with Jaden Daniels, don't get me wrong, but again, those 4 games that he was good because he had 4 catches in each of those 4 games. So it's not like he is some like world beater, that he was at North Carolina. So it really is McLaurin and Chig again prior to the NFL draft. If they take a Tate or if they take another wide receiver at 7, well, that shifts the paradigm a little bit. But even then, like I said, we've seen the chemistry that Jaden Daniels has with his tight end. He is currently the number 2 option in that receiving game for the Washington Commanders. And we know when he gets the ball in his hand, he can turn it upfield and make plays. So I'm buying all the Chigakonkwo I can get right now.
Yeah. 2 quick things here before we close out our second tight end here. Number 1, I do love this buy because of Jaden Daniels's and the Commanders' history with tight ends in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. And then number 2, Jorge, you talk about the athleticism. Just for point of reference, amongst all tight ends that ran at least 300 plus routes last season, Chigakonkwo ranked 2nd in missed tackles forced per attempt and 2nd in and 2nd in yards after catch per reception. So the athleticism is clearly there. He just had to branch off from the annoying split with Gunnar Helm, clearly. So we close out our
hold on, Aiden. We got a question real quickly, if you don't mind. Sorry to interrupt here.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
No, you're good. You're good. The commish 8269. What's up, buddy? Assuming that's a buddy and not a gal, but if it's a gal, what's up, lady? Or person. How about we just stick with that? Apologies if we talked about him. Are we panicking on Bucky Irving with the Gainwell signing? I'm seeing some mixed reviews out there.
We fought about this.
So you should have tuned in last week, but you can go check out our episode on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, or right here at the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. I was very big Gainwell. I am very pro Gainwell. I loved what he did. I thought this was a upgrade, believe it or not, over Rashad White. That being the case, Aiden had other opinions about Kenneth Gainwell. Aiden, it's been a week since we had our little debate on Dynasty 365. Has your stance changed at all? Do you still feel that Gainwell is losing a lot of value leaving Pittsburgh and going to Tampa Bay?
So I will say, Jorge, this will probably make you happy. I've warmed up to the fit a bit just because since we talked at this exact time last week, I looked at some historical stuff that Todd Bowles historically has loved to use, really been a big fan of using a split backfield before Bucky Irving came to town in his rookie season. And Kenneth Gainwell, to your point, was much more efficient than Rashad White. I don't think I really like it or even love it, but I am at least warming up to the fit of Kenneth Gainwell in Tampa Bay.
JT, I don't know about you, but that sounds like I was right and he was wrong. So
I think I like Gainwell. I like Gainwell, man. I think this does hurt Bucky a little bit. I think they realize they know who they have that with Bucky, and he just can't be the all the time guy. He's going to get beat up. I think you're going to see very, very similar situation in Tampa that you saw in Pittsburgh last year with Warren and Gainwell kind of splitting duties. I think you're going to see the same thing with Bucky and Gainwell. I think you're going to see him kind of splitting duties this year there. I like Gainwell a lot. I'm a big fan, just like Jorge is. And Jorge, I was just looking right real quick to go back to the Chig discussion, him and Ertz were like, depending on your league scoring, they were like neck and neck right next to each other last year in scoring. So you got to think a younger, healthier Chig. Ertz missed the last 3 games of the year. He's got a lot of upside this year in Washington. And like you said, without another wide receiver, I think Washington, they've seen too many teams blow the primes of their best quarterbacks because they don't have any wide receivers, a la the Bills with Josh Allen. I think if they don't get Love at 7,
DJ Moore now. So
I do think that they possibly go wide receiver if they don't go Love, and if they do not get a wideout early with no second round pick, I absolutely expect the Commanders to go wide receiver in the 3rd round. Then I think they got to get a running back and a wide receiver. Them, I think they need help. This is a deep wide receiver class. I think you can get really nice value in the 3rd round. There's no way they're going into this season with McLaren, Luke McCaffrey, Van Jefferson,
Treylon Burks,
Treylon Burks, and Jalen Lane as their 5 wide receivers. There's just no freaking. If they do, I'm Jay Daniels. I'm flipping out. I'm like, what are we doing? So there's no way they're going to go get somebody. But I do think this. I think this pumps Chig's value big time. So if you have somebody not into him, I think this would know. Ertz was a great play for you last year if you had him in tight end premium leagues. In non-tight end premium leagues, they were literally like right next to each other in scoring. So in tight end premium leagues, I think Chig gets a bump this year. I think there's a really good chance that he's their number 2 receiver.
I don't know. I don't know if you meant to do this, but I'm going to give you credit as if you did by calling Terry McLaurin, because as everyone should know,
I love Lamar. I always do it.
This to the high heavens. It is not Scary Terry. Okay. That is for the basketball player.
Just ask Kyle what Jorge thinks.
Yeah, it is Terry F1 McLaurin, aka McLaren for Formula One. Thank you for calling him McLaren. I appreciate that.
Just for you.
I'm sorry, Aiden. We got another tight end to talk about. We got to get really quickly into some previews for next week.
This is a lot of talking tight ends. So real quick, veteran retention here with the franchise. Dallas Goedert is returning to the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year, $7 million deal. JT, I want to pose this question / situation to you. Because this isn't overly drastic by any means for dynasty managers. 1 year, $7 million, as we just talked about. What is Goddard's short-term value, you think, as in, is he a contender-specific tight end 1 option going forward?
I like him. He was good last year. Again, when he's healthy. We saw with Ertz, people gave up on Ertz 2-3 years ago, and he's still giving you decent fantasy production for the price, right? So I still think Goddard's worth it, especially if you're a contender. If you're rebuild, you probably are selling him, to be honest with you. But if you're a team in a that you need a little tight end help, I have no problem going out and getting Goddard in Dynasty. It's only a 1-year deal, but does that mean he's 1 year and done? I don't know. I could see him signing another 1-year deal next year if he has a decent year. So I still like Goddard. I still think fantasy purposes, he's going to be productive. I really do.
Yeah. We talk about previewing next week because before we wrap up tonight, we want to preview our 2026 Dynasty Startup Mock Draft that we'll be doing next week. Again, it will be a lot of fun based off of all these free agency moves. The format will be, of course, a PPR, Superflex, tight end, premium specifically. So to preview the discussion, we're just going to go over it real quick, and then please return next week for all our in-depth breakdowns, of course, for the results of that. But Jorge, from a top-down perspective, just in general, how has NFL free agency already shifted startup values?
Oh my God. So veteran running backs, I believe, should be shifted up in startup drafts right now, given how weak of a class it is. I think you're going to see a lot more top 15 running backs go off the board in your startups this year. And then, the wide receiver position, people can be a little bit more liberal with that. Obviously, tight end premium plays a huge role. So, you're talking about McBride, you're talking about Bowers. They should definitely be in the discussion of top 12, the top 15. And I'm probably being a little bit too liberal or too conservative with that. They should definitely be a little bit, a lot more valued But yeah, for me, I'm noticing running back this year, startups, pre-NFL draft. Definitely the running back is going to be, you're going to have to go get those guys first.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to pay up, and in a lot of those cases, I think paying up is absolutely worth it. So, speaking of that point of paying up, JT, if you would please, whether it's players we've talked about last week, players we've talked about tonight's episode, if you would please just throw out 2 or 3 players that you already think have gained value as we sit here tonight, based off of new landing spots and situations.
Yeah, there's a couple guys like I said, we talked about tonight. I like Chig. I think he definitely goes up in value with everything that's happened. I still like Goddard. Gainwell to me, I think is equal value because I think he's still gonna be what he did in Pittsburgh. I think he can do the exact same thing over there with the Bucks. There's not been a ton of signings, to be honest with you, that I think it moves a guy way up or way down. I think a lot of them are lateral moves. If anything, I think Kenny Walker going to Kansas City, I think that increases his value. He was good for Seattle. I think if he can stay healthy, I think he could be really good for the Chiefs. They need that set running back to get all the play. Now, of course, he's got to stay healthy, but I actually think the landing spot for him is really, really nice, increases value. I'll be a buyer of Kenny Walker in trades and dynasties for sure. But I've always been a little bit of a fan of his anyway. And I think, going to a place where we see Andy Reid, who's done some magical things for fantasy purposes with running backs over the years. I like him there as well. One of the guys I think that his value's gone up, Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. I think he goes up. No Gainwell. I'm not sold on the I've been talking about it. I feel like I've ripped him a million times on podcasts, so I hate to say it. I hope he improves, but I think the Steelers, Jaylen Warren, it is his backfield this year 100%. I think it's his backfield unless something crazy happens or he gets hurt. So I think Jaylen Warren's value's gone up.
Over Dowdle? You think Dowdle's not going to eat into Warren?
So I do think Dowdle does cut into a little bit, but here's the thing is, I think Jaylen Warren is still going to be good. He's still going to be used. I don't think he all of a sudden we signed Dowdle now. Jaylen Warren's pushed to the side.
I agree with that.
So so I think you're going to see a lot of people down on Jaylen Warren, where this is, I guess I should have phrased this better. So Jorge, thank you for saying that. I think that there's going to be people down on Jaylen Warren. So I'm buying because I think the value is still equal or better than it was last year. I want him, and I think people are going to be pushed off because of the Dowdle size. So I actually want him, and I think he's going to be cheaper. So that's where I'm going to buy him for sure. I tell you what, with some of these teams, though, wide receiver is going to be really interesting. There's some teams that really need wide receivers. They really need them. So I can see some rookie guys really jumping in value once the draft happens.
Right.
Someone goes to we just talked about the Commanders. Someone goes to the Titans. Someone goes to the Giants to play opposite neighbors. There's going to be a lot of spots that are going to be really interesting for wide receiver play. And if these teams don't take any wide receivers, now we're going to have to be we're going to be going through a bunch trying to figure out what are the guys that maybe take a shot on that can actually be fantasy relevant. So it's going to be interesting over the next couple of months.
So I want to just throw out 2 names that I think people should be trying to acquire right now. One, I'm going to start from the bottom up here. Jalen McMillan, Tampa Bay. No more Mike Evans. We've seen how successful he was playing on the outside. He was dealing with an injury all of last season. Coming back this season, should be healthy. Definitely somebody who was getting a lot of steam towards the end of 2 seasons ago. People have short-term memories. What can I say? Try and see if you can go get him. And addition by subtraction, Josh Downs, please let this be the year. No more Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce.
Josh Downs,
gets re-signed here. So all aboard Josh Downs' hype here. So I would definitely make Downs the priority. But if you can get Jalen McMillan, I'm excited to see what he's able to do in this offense this year.
Yeah.
Jorge, just real quick to jump on what you said. Everybody's asking, what's the question? Is Alec Pierce a wide receiver 1? No. I still think he's their wide receiver 2. I think Josh Downs is wide receiver 1. I think it's Warren. I think they know what they have with the deep threat of Pierce. I think that ends up being pecking order goes Warren, Downs, Pierce. So I love Downs. If he would have been nicked up at the beginning of last year, I think he has a better season. He kind of just got off to a slow start. I love Downs. I'm still trying to acquire him. If you can get Warren, which I think would take an ungodly amount for most people to trade him. So you're probably not going to get him. But if you could go get Downs, I think right now he, like Jorge said, is one of the kind of the forgotten guy in that mix, but still has something to prove, and he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You know, you could get him for a reasonable price.
So I want to pose this question for the audience here. And I know we're running low on time here, Aidens, but whether you're on Twitter and you're watching this, drop this in the comment of our live stream. If you're on YouTube, drop this in the comments. After we go off air, question for you: like, what do you like to do in your dynasty startups? Do you like building, around youth, or do you target veterans? For immediate contention. Like, what do you like? What's your strategy? Do you go into a draft thinking, I want to win from day one, or are you trying to go younger and like, I want to establish a dynasty for years to come? So curious to get what the audience has to say. And of course, we'll throw up polls on our YouTube page as well as on Twitter. But just curious to get everybody's opinion here on that subject. And of course, next week we will be reviewing the results of our mock draft. JT and I will be putting together the draft room and putting out links over the next day. This will be a slow draft, about 4 hours per pick. We'll work out the details as we get closer to it, but we'll announce that information. But we're definitely looking forward to breaking that down, because Aiden, the next 2 weeks, you're not going to be with us, are you?
No, I'm going to be in Florida at my family's condo. Yeah, but shout out Kyle. I'm going to be seeing him for a day in person as well.
Nice. Excellent.
I will send you a picture. Don't worry.
Thanks. That's going to make me feel so much better. I appreciate that.
Yeah, brighten your day.
From Florida. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll do it, everybody watching. Thank you for tonight's episode of Dynasty 365. As always, please make sure to head over to fantasyandframes.com to check out all of our amazing written and article content. We got a ton of content from all of IDP, Redraft, and Dynasty perspective, as well as constantly updating our 2026 rookie rankings from our 5 main rankers that have been on this show recently before. And consensus-wise, all those resources are now live and constantly being updated, as I just said. Before we get out of here tonight, Jorge, is there anything you would like to let the good people know about?
Yeah, I mean, this is our first Wednesday back, full Fantasy and Frames Wednesday lineup. We're wrapping up Dynasty 365 literally in like 5 minutes. As soon as we get off air here, JT and I are going to be on Shoot the Gap. We're going to be talking about IDP free agency some more and discussing an combo offense IDP mock draft we have coming up also this week that we'll be discussing the results of. Then, of course, after that show at 10 p.m. Eastern, we round out Fantasy and Frames Wednesday with our flagship show, Shoot the Gap, with myself, Drew Scott, and Aiden will be joining us. So we are looking forward to that. It is great, though, to be back. Don't forget, tomorrow night, we have another draft, the Stefania Bell draft of the Fantasy and Frames Women's Best Ball Tournament. So that should be a lot of fun. Tune in for that. But yeah, that's what we got going on.
Yeah, for myself, just real quick, if you guys haven't checked them out yet, one, if you ever greatly appreciate it, but two, that's okay, because I've been doing a ton of instant reaction articles, RB, wide receivers, you name it. Everyone's been signing. I got instant redraft takes for 2026 fantasy football outlook. And then I believe tomorrow, right, Jorge, hopefully my Jalen Waddle big trade reaction will be going out. So we'll have that as well. That is a big pillar to continue this offseason as well. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter/X at AYGunner13 to find all of my content promotion and my instant reactions to free agency from that perspective. JT, where can people find you? What do you want to let people know about?
Got a couple new articles up on Fantasy and Frames. Went through some IDP free agent stuff, so go ahead and check those out. I'm also been doing a ton of like player profiles for DLF. So if you remember, go over there and check those out. Also, now that we're getting some free agent signing, I am diving deep into my top 150 IDP rankings for Dynasty, going through trying to scrub those move guys up, move guys down. It's a big process. I got into it a little bit the other night, moved guys around, but I've got to keep going at it. So got those over there. If you're into college Devy stuff, I've got my Devy top 75 on there as well. And pumped for NCAA March Madness, baby.
Yes.
Love it. One of my favorite times of year.
No Maryland,
Get ready.
getting
all the brackets ready, getting everybody joined up. So this is one of my favorite weeks of the absolute favorite weeks of the entire year. I love March Madness. So get pumped. As soon as we get out with all the podcasts tonight, jumping on, putting in bets, filling out brackets. Got a long night ahead of me, but it's gonna be fun.
Aiden, I hate you. Okay. Anyhow.
Well, I'm just saying. But there's no Penn State either, so at least your wife doesn't have a team and then you don't.
Exactly.
Anyway, guys, great stuff on the horizon as always. I'm Aiden for JT and Jorge. We will see you next week. Have a great night.